In this video, I want to share with you how I've been able to live nomadically for the last 8 years. I think I fit in this digital nomad box as I've been able to live in new places often and find exciting projects, and that's what I want to talk about today. If you've ever been curious about how it all works, I can't speak for all nomadic humans, but I can share a little bit about what's worked for me, how I got started, and all the things I learned along the way. I'm really excited to talk about this, and there's a lot to cover, so let's just get right into it. I think in order to tell you how everything started, I have to connect two dots. The first time I ever traveled and how I found my passion. Back in 2016, I was 24 years old, and one day I just got up and left Canada, boarded a one-way flight to New Zealand. I didn't know back then, but that would be the most important decision in my entire life. That was my first time traveling ever, and it wasn't until the end of that first crazy month in New Zealand where I found my why. Originally, I didn't start on this 8-year journey because I knew I wanted to be nomadic or filmmaker. I actually knew nothing about either. The real reason was simple. I felt like my life was pathetic and I was really unhappy with myself. And I think deep down, I wanted more out of life. What happened in that first month in New Zealand gave me so much clarity that deciding to sell everything, putting a few things in a bag, and living on the road full time didn't sound crazy at all. It was actually the easiest decision of my life. But let me explain why. When I landed in New Zealand, I didn't know how anything worked. Not only did I have zero travel experience, I had every fear you could think of. The physical fears of heights and swimming, mental, emotional, and social fears of being accepted or loved. Very desperate to change, I booked 30 days of adrenaline activities to conquer all my physical fears. Doing these crazy things, I met people every day and we bonded over shared experiences. I would ask people to be in my GoPro videos, and slowly I started to collect all this footage of new friends and experiences. You can maybe already see where this is going. At the end of that New Zealand trip, I sat down and I taught myself how to make my first video using Premiere Pro and YouTube tutorials. This was possibly one of the most important moments in my life because what happened next was 10 straight hours of pure passion and flow. I sat on the floor editing all this New Zealand footage, and it didn't cross my mind to stand up, drink water, anything. Those 10 hours felt like 5 minutes, and at the end of it, I stumbled upon my greatest passion, making films. This was the golden ticket, or at least that's what it felt like when I made that first film. So how does my first time traveling and discovering my love for filmmaking lead to becoming a digital nomad? Well, aside from the excitement of my new travels and making videos, the thought that stood out to me was, wow, I like this version of myself. Something I've never thought before. I think this moment taught me if you ever feel this type of self-love, double down on it. It probably means you're on the right path. I'm kind of an intense person, so I didn't double down. I just went all in. I liquidated my entire life in Canada down to a backpack, and my life's mission was crystal clear. Experience as much as possible and make films. And so I set off into the world with one backpack, a simple goal in mind, and absolutely no plan on how to achieve it. Would you believe if I told you just a couple months later, I got an opportunity to go back to New Zealand with the intent of making a video for a company? What's the best gift someone ever got for you? Mine came from my friend Ben, who proved to me that my dream was actually possible. Let me explain. Imagine this, I was just loitering around at Ben's house in Australia a couple months after making my first video, and Ben runs into the room and he just looks at me and he says, "I got one." With absolutely no idea what he was talking about, he goes on to say that he emailed a supercar company in Queenstown and asked if we could take a supercar for the day in exchange for one of my videos. I just kind of gave him one of those blank stares, like, I don't know what was going through my head. And then he looks right back at me and he says, "They said yes." And my mind was... The story goes on with us picking up the Audi R8, driving it out the garage, and squealing like a couple of teenage girls at what just happened. We spent an entire day making a video of this beautiful car in the most beautiful part of the country. So I made their video. It wasn't amazing, but it was pretty good for how new I was. And when they saw it, they loved it. They even invited me back a couple years later. This experience with Ben taught me something. I was hooked on the idea that I could maybe reach out to get more amazing opportunities, so I did just that. And guess what? Again, a couple months later, I landed my first client, and I leveraged that supercar video I made to get this opportunity. And they were willing to pay me real money this time, my first time making money. And it wasn't just some Joe Schmo company, it was Aston Martin. I just emailed the right guy at the right time, and he offered me the chance to film the unveiling of a brand new 2017 Vanquish S. This was a big deal for them and a big deal for me because it was a global event. It was the first time the CEO of Aston Martin was coming to New Zealand. During an entire day of pretending to know what I was doing, there was this funny moment where I was miking up the CEO of Aston Martin with mics that I didn't know how to use, and he was making small talk with me, and he goes, "So how long you been doing this?" And I'm kind of just miking up his suit, and I got a grin on my face, and I said, "Oh, it's my first day." And he kind of just laughs, and I just die a little bit inside. So what did this all teach me? Well, I think it's super important to surround yourself with people who elevate you, the ones that understand your ambitions and dreams and find little or big ways to get you closer to that vision. I learned about the power of asking. Ben and I wouldn't have gotten those amazing opportunities if we didn't ask. And I think that a lot of people have a misconception about what asking is. I think some people view it as weak or needy or a fear of looking dumb. But I think the truth is there's confidence in asking. And even if they say yes, that doesn't deny that there's a tremendous amount of work that still needs to be done. And I mean, if you're going to ask, go big, right? Like, emailing Hyundai wasn't going to give me butterflies. Aim for the top. So if you're wondering why I keep changing scenes while I talk, it's because I have nowhere to film this video. I don't have anywhere to film any of my videos. But at the same time, I have everywhere to film my videos. And what I mean by that is I have no base. I haven't had a home since 2016. When I set out at the beginning of this entire story, I dedicated my life to living on the road and finding a way to do that while making videos. And I'm still doing that today, and I still plan to do it for a little while longer. But it means that when I want to create these types of videos, I have nowhere to go. I don't have a room, I don't have a studio, I don't have lights. And right now, I'm just sitting on this log in the middle of this beautiful hotel because this is all I got. And this is my reality. I think for some people, it can be very uncomfortable not having these types of comforts, but it's become somewhat normal for me now. And instead of going on to tell stories about how things have gone over the last 6, 7, 8 years, I think just breaking down this next part into questions that I researched that I found were interesting about digital nomad life and answering them is the best way forward from here. Instead of making all these cuts and trying to add cinematics, I think it's just nice to sit down and have a conversation. So from here, I found some cool questions, and obviously this is going to be the most asked questions about this, which is, what's it like living like a nomad? Like, where do you go and what is life like? And as I just said, there's no base. So it's a strange thing to get used to, because after you feel like you're done in a place, you don't know where to go next. And that's part of the adventure, finding out what's calling you and just feeling the gravity towards a new place or a new story or even a new person, and you get to chase those leads down. That's what you've given up everything to do. So if you're not going to enjoy it, then maybe this lifestyle is not going to be the best suited for you, or at least you can learn to grow to love it. But the best and worst parts of this lifestyle is meeting new people, trying new cultures out, and walking and talking how people do where they're from. That's my absolute favorite part. It's just a luxury and a bonus that I can make videos and take photos along the way. But I am so proud of the stories that I get to collect on the road. I think that there's no better gift, and I can give up the comforts of a bedroom and maybe a bit of routine here and there for these things because I love it so much. But just because I'm nomadic doesn't mean that I don't have some degree of stability. I'll give you some examples. When I was crossing Iceland off my bucket list, I believed that life didn't feel that crazy because when I was working in that country, I was living there, and there's this guy named Thor. He's the mountain off Game of Thrones. He's also the world's strongest man. And we started working together to build his YouTube channel. We built it from scratch to 500,000 subscribers. And while I was living with him and making his YouTube videos, I had a life there. So it didn't feel like I was just on the go. I forwarded that life in Iceland by providing value. And that's just an example of where I lived. There was another time in French Polynesia, in the middle of the Pacific Islands. I was living on this island called Moorea with the coral gardeners, and again, I was making videos for them, and they had a villa for me, so I could afford to live in that place for a few months because I was creating there, and I was with a community of people, and I had a life there. And so this is kind of how my nomadic chapters have been broken up. I found projects that could allow me to live in different places and check all the boxes, basically. Now, the worst parts about living as a digital nomad, this is actually my favorite part of the conversation. I think a lot of people love talking about all the glitz and glamour. I love talking about the misconceptions and challenges of this lifestyle just because I feel like there's more depth there and you can connect with a lot more people over this topic. For me, the hardest part in the beginning was trying to find solitude. It was trying to find a place to rest, trying to find a place to take inventory, and just catch up with memories. And I couldn't do that because I was saying yes to everything, going everywhere on every flight, and just capitalizing on all the opportunities. But I realized I was burning myself out. And the worst part is when you don't have anywhere to recharge and you are in desperate need of recharging, it's a little bit of a scary feeling. You kind of think you're in survival mode, and you start to begin to panic a lot. It kind of feels like you're swimming in the middle of the ocean and you have nowhere safe to swim to, and you got to just keep treading water. It can overwhelm you. It can definitely overwhelm you. I know a lot of people deal with loneliness in this lifestyle. I think that's common just because if you're moving around a lot, you're always first to say goodbye, and you might find a great community or circle of people that you love, but you're moving on and it can definitely feel lonesome. But I've never personally struggled with that. If anything, I've maybe struggled with the opposite. I'm meeting so many people that I don't have enough time for myself, and as a introvert, that can harm me. If you're thinking about this lifestyle, I've talked to a lot of people who struggle with loneliness just because I think they choose this lifestyle because they want to meet new people, but maybe they do and then they don't stay long enough, because if they stay, then it's kind of the opposite of what they subscribed for. The next question is about how to build a business while living nomadically, and I think that's a great thing to touch on really quick. I didn't personally choose to start a business. I was making videos because I loved it and I was traveling, and because that was my mission, as I said earlier. And it came to a point where there's just money being deposited into my account because I was making videos and people were paying me. And it came to a point where I wanted to incorporate my business, my name, because I didn't want to get audited. And it kind of just forced my hand into a business, which is great because there was so much demand that I saw no other option but to start a business. And it's been easy since. And I think that's a great way to assess if you want to start a business or not. You should be able to have so much demand that it calls for it, instead of signing up for the license and then worrying about where your business is going to come from. And how I find work, that's something I already touched on slightly in the beginning of the video. You know, the power of asking is one big thing, but outreaching and learning how to ask questions and listening is a big part. How I got those opportunities in Iceland or French Polynesia is because I reached out to the right person and I took time to research what the best way to approach them was, with what words and what tone. Would I recommend this lifestyle to other people? I think that what I want to say is yes, because you learn so much about yourself when you learn about the rest of the world, how other people think and live in different parts of the world. It's humbling, and it creates a curiosity gap that when you find the answers for the world, you internally find something for yourself. And I think there's something really beautiful about that. I just think that it can be really exhausting if you don't find a way to do it sustainably, mentally, physically. You can easily justify not staying in shape or not doing the things you love, like reading a book or finding some type of routine to make you feel more stable, because it'll always feel like you're on vacation to some degree. And I don't think that's actually the right way to approach it. I think that you need to find a way to kind of make it feel normal, even though it's not normal. So I would actually recommend it, at least for a small season. It's kind of like when people talk about van life. I imagine people don't sign up for van life because they want to do it for 10, 20 years. I think most people want to just get a taste of it, and I think this is the same thing here. I think that if you want to try and live nomadically, try and do a couple of destinations with the mindset that you're going to keep going to somewhere new, and don't plan so much, and just see where the wind takes you and what kind of people you meet and what kind of opportunities you find, and give yourself an opportunity to see if you like that type of problem solving in life. And I think the big question here is, do I want to stay on this path? Do I want to continue being a digital nomad? And the answer is yes, but there's a caveat. I think I want to find a hybrid version of this life. You know, I've been doing it for a while and I'm getting older now, and, you know, I've collected a lot of stories and people and ideas, and I would love a space for that. You know, maybe that looks like a loft or a studio. I don't know what that looks like, and I definitely don't know where it is before you even think to ask what country or where. I just love so many different places and I don't know where, but this is actually why I'm filming this video in Madeira in Portugal, because I'm here seeing how life works, and I was curious if life could feel good enough that I would want to keep coming back here and maybe think of it as a base. And there's a few other countries I want to try, and this is the first stop. So I think a big part of me will always be nomadic, just because I found such a deep part of myself on the road. But I don't want to live destination to destination 12 months of the year. I love the idea of having a space going back and forth, but I'm also not in any rush to create that space. I'm happy to go out and window shop a few different places to find it. It's a really important decision in my life, so I want to make sure that it is the right decision in the right place and everything aligns inside. Well, if you've made it this far, that's actually amazing, because I've never done a long format video before and this is a relatively new channel. So thank you for making it this far into a video that is just hanging out with me. I didn't scrape the surface on the stories that I wanted to share and everything I wanted to talk about, just because it's hard to do that in one video and talk about 8 years, you know? There's amazing stories from different parts of the world, different types of people that I want to share, and maybe that's what this channel will be broken up to. But if you have questions about being a digital nomad, please ask in any format that you feel comfortable. I love talking about this stuff. I'm so passionate about it, and I made a lot of mistakes along the way, and I just feel like I would love to pay it forward. I wish there was people who could answer my questions when I was starting. All I knew is that I wanted to be out in the world, because I truly just found a version of myself that I liked, and I just leaned towards that, and everything else I just wanted to figure out along the way, and I have. And now that I've been doing it for 8 years, I feel like giving people a way to find some of these answers a little bit faster is a wonderful thing, and it really excites me. And if you do decide to stick around, I've already started this relationship by being very rude. I didn't even introduce myself the entire video. If we've never met before, my name is Anthony. I'm from Canada. I'm a photographer and filmmaker, and for the last 8 years, I've been a digital nomad. The journey continues. That's what I'm still trying to figure out, and I hope you stick around for that.